Hi, this is Chef Brandon Worrell, and tonight I am making Japchae. Japchae is a Korean noodle dish, typically served at weddings and birthdays. Now it's more formally served when you get-togethers, and even though we're not getting together with anybody right now, you can still make the dish and act like you're getting together with your friends and family. The main ingredient for Japchae are these glass noodles. They're typically called glass noodles. These are actually sweet potato starch noodles. They take the starch from sweet potatoes and make noodles out of them. They're a clear noodle. They have a nice chew to them. They have a sweet flavor with them. We're gonna boil these noodles first, cool them down. The great thing about this dish is you can make this dish cold, room temperature, hot. You could stir fry it. It's a really versatile dish. It holds really well in your refrigerator. It's a great dish to be able to bring with you for parties. We have marinated beef. When I say marinated, I already did the marinated for this. The marination is soy sauce, sugar, sesame oil, garlic, ginger. I had a lot of leeks and green onions, so I put some of those inside too. And for the beef, we actually broke down an entire ribeye, and then all the scraps that we had left over, we chopped them really, really fine, and we use that for this dish. We have onions, green onions, and leeks. We have red bell peppers, we have mushrooms, and then I'm using some kale today. This dish typically calls for spinach, but I had a lot of kale. And when you're cooking at home, you should use the stuff that you have before they go bad, rather than just going out and buying something else. Our kale we've had for a while, so I want to use up our kale, so I'm going to use that for this dish. The kale has just been boiled, drained, washed with cold water, chopped, and then we're going to saute it with all the other ingredients. For the sauce component of this dish, it's just like the marinade. It's soy sauce, sesame oil, roasted sesame seeds, green onions, and sugar. It should be a salty sweet with a lot of that sesame flavor inside. I also have some extra ginger, garlic, and green onions that are going to get mixed in for added flavor. And some more roasted sesame seeds for garnish on top. So first thing we'll do is we'll start to boil the potato starch noodles. They only take about 5 minutes to boil. We'll rinse them under cold water, and then we're going to saute each ingredient one by one. Okay? So these noodles, they come in a big package. We don't need all these noodles, but sometimes breaking them up can be difficult. So we're going to see if we can get just half of the noodles without making I didn't make a mess. All right. So we'll put about half the noodles in there, and we're going to put maybe 3/4. I want to get these worked down into the water. If you don't have a giant pot, it's okay. You just get them started and then kind of get them in there. Push them down. There you go. Once these cook, you can see that kind of a glass look to them. They're beautiful. We have our noodles going. Roughly 5 minutes is all it needs. While that's going, we got our pan, and it's turned on high right now. We're just getting it warm. We have a little bit of vegetable oil here. So with all the ingredients for this japchae, we want to do them individually. We're going to cook everything, onions first, take them out of the pan. Bell peppers, take them out of the pan. Vice versa. Those are cooking, and now we're going to cook our ingredients one by one. So we're going to start first with all the onions. So again, I'm using some cut up green onions, some red onions, and some leeks. I wanted different flavors of onions in this dish, and I had a lot. You don't have to worry about seasoning everything on this dish because the sauce and the marinade for this dish are so strong that they should take care of it all. So, you just want to get this cooked down nice and soft. I like to have a little bit of char on this as well. So, check these out. These are looking really good. Glass noodles should stay pretty chewy. You don't want them mushy. So usually I'll just, come on. And I like just to kind of feel it. I want to see how strong they are, if they're too chewy. They're good. They're still a little hard. I'm going to let this go for another minute. We checked our noodles. Now I'm going to take these over. I have a strainer waiting for me at the sink, and I'm going to go ahead and strain these out. Be careful in the steam because the steam will burn you. So, one thing I like to do while these are still warm is I like to just put a little bit of oil on them. Not a lot, but just a little bit of oil. And then move them around. This will help them so they don't stick together. Okay. Now we're just going to let these cool down and rest while we get the rest of the ingredients going. So we've got our onions. We've got some nice char on these onions. And we're going to put these onto our plate. Okay. Now, if you need to, add a little oil. And then we're going to go ahead and do our bell peppers. The bell peppers, we want these bell peppers to be a little crunchy. We don't want everything in this dish to be soft, otherwise it's just kind of a bland texture, and you want contrasting texture. So the bell pepper will remain crunchy, so we're just gonna saute this one for a little bit, not very long. Our last couple ingredients we have, which are the mushrooms, kale, and the beef. The mushrooms and the kale we're actually gonna do together, and the reason is that the kale itself has a lot of moisture, and the mushrooms do too. So we want those to kind of cook together, get all the moisture out at the same time. We're gonna add some of our garlic and ginger to those ingredients as well. I like to do my onions first, that way we can make sure we get that nice char on the onions, and then the bell peppers, that way I don't want them to overcook and get soft when I cook other items that have more moisture in them. So just like another minute on this. Okay, so these are good. Take those out. Again, just a touch of oil. And we're gonna go ahead and add our garlic and our ginger. The pan is nice and hot, so this won't take very long. I just want to get it started. Now, if you were using spinach, you could have just boiled the spinach and added it to the dish alone. But I'm using kale. Kale is a little bit harder of a texture and a little bit stronger of a flavor. So that's why I boiled it, and I'm going to go ahead and saute it with some garlic and ginger. So, while this is cooking, we have our noodles drained, and we're going to go ahead and start adding the sauce to our noodles to give our noodles more flavor. We have our noodles here. They've been drained. We actually added a little bit of cold water to start cooling them down so they didn't overcook. We have our dressing mixture right here, which is the sugar, soy sauce, sesame oil, green onions. And we're going to go ahead and just add it all to this. You want the noodles to soak all that sauce flavoring. While we cook everything else, it's good to do this so that way it can kind of develop that flavor. Smell that garlic and ginger. You can notice when you see the browning of the mushroom, you kind of get that toasted smell. We know we're at a good point. Alright, so finally, we're gonna cook our beef. A little more oil. And the beef. Now this beef marinade has a lot of flavor. There's green onions, there's leeks, there's sugar, soy sauce, sesame oil. So what I'm doing is just breaking it all apart to try and get a nice, flat, even cook. Probably marinated this for maybe 2 hours. I wouldn't go too much more than that because the meat is sliced so thin. You don't want it to get over marinated. So what we're gonna do, we have this cooking. We have our noodles marinating. So we're going to start, while this is cooking, we're gonna put all of this just like that inside here. Don't forget everything. Give the meat a check. This will cook really fast because the meat is so small, but you do want to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. You're not trying to, this isn't a dish designed to be like a medium rare steak, and we're not going to cook this anymore after this. So we want to get all this cooked down. You can really smell everything, the ginger, the garlic, the onions. The sesame oil is really strong throughout this whole dish, which is great. You could use any kind of beef. I tend to like ones that are a little bit more tender, more lean for this dish, but really anything will work. If you're going to use a tougher cut or a fattier cut, just make sure you slice it as thin as you can when you go to cook it. Even the most toughest cuts of meat, sliced very thin and then cooked on a high heat, will yield a tender steak. You just don't want to cut big chunks, otherwise you're going to sit there and chewing it. Because I know this is a ribeye, this is a very tender cut, I'm not worried about it as much as this at all. Okay. So, we're going to shut this off. I'm going to add this to our noodle dish. We have everything in here. I'm going to put about 3/4 of these green onions, and I'll show you why, not all of them. And then just a nice pinch of these sesame seeds. So, mix all this up. Mix, pull, turn, pull, mix, crimp, close, pinch, whatever you want to call it. Get it all mixed up. We're going to put our final green onion on top and our final sesame seeds all around. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Japchae. It's easy to bring to a friend's house. set out the dinner table, let everyone serve themselves. Again, this can sit in your fridge for a couple of days and it sits really well. I can't wait to get into this. So thank you very much.